Good afternoon all. Thanks very much for joining me today. I'm Matt Hodkinson of Influence Agents, and you are here with us to talk to Matt Hurley today of Frase. We're going to be discussing the new way to do SEO and content strategy in 2020 and beyond. Bear with us. It's the first webinar for a while, but we're going to get through it. So thanks again. So this is me, Influence Agents. We are a B2B tech inbound marketing company and HubSpot partner. We help B2B tech companies to generate more relevant traffic, leads, and customers using the latest and most effective inbound strategies. I'm joined today, very pleased to be joined by Matt Hurley, who's the Director of Growth at Frase. Matt, do you want to give us a quick introduction?
Sure, yeah, my name is Matt Hurley. Like Matt said, I'm the Director of Growth at Frase. Frase is an answer engine optimization platform. In other words, we help agencies and websites, in-house marketers create and optimize content that can answer their audience's questions. I think that's like the 10-minute spiel, or 10-second spiel, right?
Fantastic. Thanks, Matt. Whereabouts in the world are you today?
I'm in Chicago today, and I'm sorry to report that it seems to have snowed a fair amount last night. So that's disappointing.
We've got the opposite in the UK, nice and sunny for a change when you know it during lockdown. We are recording this today, by the way, for the benefit of all attendees. So if you get called away, you have to drop off. For those who weren't able to make it, we're going to put this up on the website in perpetuity. And if you are watching it back, you find us on the 15th of April, 2020, in the middle of lockdown. So hopefully, you know, if you are watching this a bit later on, we got through it, hopefully. And yeah, so that's where we are. We're all at home, hence the strange backdrops on everybody's webcams of late. So that's why we're here. Normally, every month we would be getting together for our Accelerate Your Inbound breakfast seminar that we run every single month. And for the last few months, that's been happening at the Gherkin in London. That was one of our recent events there. And we've recognized that, you know, we really miss actually this interaction, presenting some of the latest strategies and tactics to some eager participants. And over the course of the next few weeks, we're going to be repeating this. Today, we really wanted to get into SEO and content strategy because it's at the heart of everything that we do. And we actually I started Influence Agents really as an SEO agency originally. And it's grown from there because I think the different tactics and strategies, how you get results, you know, rankings and getting traffic from organic search is massively important. But we recognize that there are a number of other disciplines and strategies and about going deeper into the sales journey as well that we really needed to understand and focus on. But SEO is still there. It's still a massive topic. And that's been evidenced by the number of attendees and number of registrations that we've had for this event. And I notice a lot of people are talking about SEO in lots of different ways with lots of different areas of focus. There's still, I think, for a lot of people, a lot of confusion around what SEO is, where their focus needs to be. Should it be on their own websites, in their own content? Should it be a technical thing that you're fiddling with the meta description, meta tags, and the back end of the website? Or is it about going out and hunting for links? So first off, I want to start off with a poll. We're going to make it as interactive as we possibly can today. And there is Q&A available. So do use within the Zoom platform the ability to post your questions as we go through the presentation. We're going to have a Q&A section later, so we're going to scroll through all of your questions and hopefully get you the answers that you need. And hoping that either one of us Matt H's will be able to answer your questions as we go. But for the first bit of interactivity, I'm going to launch this poll, which you should see on screen. What's your current approach to SEO at your organization? There's a few options there, from wait, what's SEO, to we're not actually actively optimizing, it's in our plans, we have an SEO program but it's not bearing fruit or it's not working, we have a program in place and it is working, or we're getting some good results, right through to we've got this, the top positions are ours, mwahahaha. which nobody seems to be going for just yet. So I think we've got the majority of submissions there. Get them in. I'm going to count down from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Poll ended. So I think actually the most responses were that many of you have an SEO program in place, and some good results are coming from that. And actually 12 of you in total were across, we're not actively optimizing our site and content, or it's in your plans for this year, which kind of explains why you're here. So we'll share those results a bit later on with all the polls and everything, and yeah, continue to keep the Q&A coming through. We'll get to them a bit later on. Okay, so when we do run our monthly events, we talk a lot about HubSpot. We're a HubSpot partner agency, and when we talk about SEO tools, companies like HubSpot have been releasing a number of different features into the marketplace over the years. Latterly, we're seeing SEO recommendations. So if you host your site, or if you have the tracking code from HubSpot on your website, you'll start to get these recommendations coming through. Everything from technical aspects to the presence of keywords, to your linking strategy and various aspects of that. Prioritizing these recommendations as well, so you can focus on what's having the greatest impact on your ability to rank and get traffic from the right places. Again, within the confines of HubSpot, we've been talking for a good while now, as if it's a new thing, about topic clusters and the content strategy of having a pillar piece of content that you really want to kind of rank, that is an important page on your site, and surrounding that with these spokes or subtopics that support that central pillar. Now, with Matt with us today and with Frase, you know, there are more tools out there, more strategies that are supporting this approach that is fully within your control. And that's one of the key messages I want to get across today, is if you're thinking that your SEO and your ranking, the traffic quality and volumes that you're getting are reliant on you going out and getting those backlinks that everybody talks about to your site, perhaps you'd employed or outsourced this to an agency that's going out kind of hunting for links, you know, finding relevant high domain authority sites and kind of sending those begging letters. There's one here which might sound familiar. This is an actual one that landed in my inbox. I was digging around for information on social media growth hack and came across to your resource page, linked to one of our blog posts there. I was wondering if you'd be interested in linking our recent article to your blog. I'm sure it will make a great addition to your page, like all the benefit is going to be for me. And of course, behind the scenes, we know that those backlinks are going to be favoring them. Matt, I mean, with this in mind, with this approach to going out and hunting for links and farming in this way, I get the sense that organizations, agencies, companies are kind of possibly neglecting something that's much more in their control, and that is optimizing the content that they have and identifying the gaps that they've got in their own content arsenal.
Exactly. Yeah, this sort of brings me to the quantity versus quality argument that's been sort of popping up in the SEO world. You know, sort of traditionally, the idea is the more backlinks, the better. But I think people are finally starting to realize, and really this is sort of accelerated in 2019 and certainly in 2020 at this point, is that it's actually creating and optimizing the content that you have, or refreshing the content that you have, is a better longer term strategy than just, you know, spamming people like this person has done and sort of begging for backlinks. I think the stat is that, you know, something like 95% of articles don't have any backlinks on the internet. And so there's an ocean of content out there that's sort of just a waste of time and a waste of effort. So instead of you know, just, you know, spinning articles and pumping out content like a machine, I think the better strategy certainly is to make sure that content that you are creating is extremely high quality and really earns those backlinks.
Yeah, absolutely. I think actually what probably leans people in this direction more and more is that they have this perception that creating content is a massive amount of work. If they
Mhm.
don't have access to the right copywriters with the right experience, the right flair for creating persuasive copy, it's going to be a challenge. They might have a stab at it themselves, but often that isn't sustainable. Do you have any kind of tips for people that might be thinking along those lines, that it's easier to go and kind of farm for these links rather than focus on their own content?
I mean, we're certainly going to get into some tips that we have with the demo of the Phrase platform, but I think the real sort of the driver of this behavior, like you mentioned, Matt, is creating good, high quality content is really hard, and it's really time consuming. Not just writing it, which pretty much, which many people can do. You can have in-house writers. You can use a content writing agency. You can use specialty, sort of services these days where they're just doing sort of connecting companies with freelancers who will write for you. But also the research process is very time consuming, and so automating that and streamlining that is sort of key to accomplishing this goal of creating high quality content instead of large quantities.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're going to show you exactly how to do that today. And just to support your point about the quality versus quantity aspect here, 94% of all published content gets 0 external links, and that just speaks to the kind of content for content's sake approach that a lot of organizations have taken to date. So we've got 94% of content not getting any links, clearly having limited benefit when it comes to Google's perception of why they should send you traffic in the first place. We've also got this stat around long form content winning at SEO as well. There's more and more evidence. And of course, it's very difficult to understand exactly what Google's algorithm is. And of course, we talk a lot about Google. There are other search engines out there, but they're certainly winning the battle for eyeballs and for users. So long form content is really getting more eyes. We've talked about topic clusters. That puts a pillar piece of content at the center of the content strategy. And typically we're dealing with our clients and recommending to them that they're creating a more in-depth piece at the center of their strategy, supporting it with some shorter form content that speaks about those subtopics and in support. And we're seeing that gets a great result when it gets to ranking. What have you heard, Matt, in terms of this this aspect of long form content kind of winning and being favored from Google? Any ideas why that might be the case, and what other kind of considerations there are there?
Like you said, it's very tough to see inside the black box of Google's algorithms. But one thing that we definitely know for sure is that creating content that's topically relevant to sort of the topic of interest that you're writing about is definitely the most important. And what I mean by that is you need to sort of mention as many things that are sort of included in this concept map that you've mentioned as possible in order for Google to say, okay, this is highly relevant. This is sort of what these Google searches are looking for. And the best way to do that is to create sort of long form content with lots that sort of touches on lots of key topics, not just keywords, but key topics that Google is deemed relevant to this search query. So absolutely, it's just more likely to be a relevant article if it's a longer one going into more depth than just service level.
I think also because this graph refers to the number of referring domains that that are pointing towards long form. I think there is a perception in those other referring sites, those that are happy to put links on their own blog articles, on their own web pages, pointing to these resources. There's the perception that it is of greater value when it is longer form, that almost there's been more thought and effort put into it, and you're being rewarded for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. Okay, so we've also got this element of reporting bias in third-party keyword research tools. So we've used a number of tools through the years. We've used SEMrush. We've trialed Moz along the way. We've tried KW Finder, and there are various others there. I mean, there's Ahrefs. What are you noticing, Matt, about about this bias? Where does it come from? What do you think is going on under the hood?
Yeah. So keyword research can be tricky. Sort of what we've seen in the past is that you know, throwing a tons of keywords into your article is not always the best strategy. So anecdotally, people seem to report that, you know, mentioning a certain keyword 15 times in an article actually hurts your SEO. It doesn't help it. And so it's less about just cramming content full of, you know, keywords or buzzwords, and more about understanding, okay, what's topically relevant for this article, and sort of what are the keywords, what are the topics that I need to include in order to rank for this search query. Sort of this is continuing to reinforce the idea that when it comes to SEO, more is not necessarily better. And sort of the bias has always been towards, let's just pump this full of links or keywords or whatever. And we're learning now that that's not the best strategy. So
yeah, and of course, I guess Google has got better at recognizing natural language and related terms, and the whole kind of the sphere of words around a particular topic as well, and promoting relevance over just keyword stuffing, as we would call it. So, and I think we're going to talk a little bit about voice as well, how voice search has changed search, and I think that speaks to that. So keywords aren't everything. Natural language, understanding of the topic, and producing quality. So those are the headlines so far up to this point. Also, this aspect of done-for-you content can be risky. We've used a number of copywriters over the years, and I can speak to this tweet here. So Derek Gleason has said, "I've worked with hundreds of marketers and freelance writers over the past 1.5 years. The single best predictor of content quality, whether the author has done the thing they're writing about. Experiential expertise equals essential nuance, ability to challenge best practices." And this is something we've baked into our agency. We recruit writers actively. We don't actually employ any writers. It's important to say that. There's a very good reason. We can't hire generalists predicting the kind of clients, the different kind of aspects and angles. Even when we niche in B2B tech, as we do, 1 week we've got a writer who's having to produce a piece on cybersecurity. The next it would be database management, very specific areas, and they don't have to necessarily be technical writers. They have to have a good understanding, and they have to be able to write with persuasive language and as a marketer effectively. But we found exactly the same, that however many times you go out for a writer and recruit somebody based on their experience of writing about that topic, there is no substitute for having done the job or worked in that specific area. And so our recruitment policy has always been, we will only recruit writers who have actually done the job, or one that's very close to the topic that we are discussing. So yeah, done for you content.
That's such a good point, man. And the other thing, you're sort of an outlier with this process, as you may have already guessed, but we talk to people all the time at agencies that are using a content creation shop to help them create content for their clients. And the biggest problem that we hear them talking about is actually the number of rewrites that they have to do.
Yeah.
So if the agency and their client are not well aligned with the writer, you really lose most of the efficiency of having someone else write that content for you, because you're constantly saying, okay, you know what, this isn't exactly the scope that we are looking for. Why don't you change it by doing this? And a big reason for that is oftentimes agencies are not providing a well sort of scoped or well researched content outline or content brief for their content writers. They're just sort of giving them the title, right? Yeah. And that's when we see things go wrong, so to speak, because you're giving someone that has no expertise in the area that you're and the topic that you're writing about, and you're basically giving them no context, no assets, no research to aid them in the writing process. And that results in a very tedious and annoying and frustrating write and rewrite, write, edit, rewrite, write, edit, rewrite cycle.
And further than that, I mean, they're having to do the research. And what they can end up doing, if they don't have that experiential learning, is that they'll regurgitate what's already out on the web. So you're not creating original content. You're actually respouting the opinions and experience and expertise of others, which is straight back to that content for content's sake approach. It's not unique, so is it worth creating in the first place? Okay, time for the next poll. We're talking about content strategy. We're leaning into this idea now of having a better approach to creating content. So I want to ask you, do you have a documented content strategy that you're happy with covering the next 6 to 12 months? So let me launch that one now. And this one's a bit more simple. Yes, no, or we're working on it. Okay, got space for a couple more, but let's give you 3, 2, 1. Okay, so we've got most people are working on it, or they don't have one. There's actually only 2 attendees I can share. We're not going to name and shame, by the way. There's only 2 attendees on today's webinar that have that documented strategy. I'm hoping we've got some clients on board who have that. Right, thanks for sharing, and we will distribute the results again of all of that after we're done. So part of this, the whole approach, part of Google's change in the way that it is ranking content, recognizing natural language, recognizing the relationship semantically between keywords, topics, and the reason why you don't have to do that keyword stuffing, as Matt was saying, is because Google's got better, and it's had to change with the advent of voice search. Now, if you have an Alexa, if you've got Siri on your phone, if you have a Google Home device, as I do, then you will probably have asked it a question that that device will have had to go to the web to find the answer for. They do say never work live with technology, children, or animals. We've got some of all of those things in this house right now. I'm going to reach out to Google Home and ask it a question. Let's see what it says. Hey Google, what is SEO?
On the website moz.com, they say, SEO stands for Search Engine Optimization, which is the practice of increasing the quantity and quality of traffic to your website through organic search engine results.
There you go. So, first off, Google can't pronounce SEO, which is interesting in itself. It calls it SEO. But it went straight to Moz as the trusted resource for that answer. And so we're seeing this shift from having you get a list of results to choose from, to click through to find the answers that you need, to immediate answers to your queries. It's that on-demand response that everybody, let's face it, wants, providing that the accuracy and the quality is there in the answer that you're receiving. So it's all making for a better experience. In effect, Google is becoming an answer engine. And I don't know, Matt, did you coin this term answer engine, or is that something that was already in existence?
It's already in existence, but not many people know what it is.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. So this kind of shows the current landscape. And I would argue perhaps that actually there are more searches now with 0 clicks, and that's a growing proportion of the overall searches on the web. What we're seeing here is that over 50% of searches on Google today don't result in a click. And that suggests that people are getting the answer to their question without them having to delve into various different ranking pages to find the answers that they wanted. That's based on a wealth of research, by the way. The vast majority of what remains obviously goes to organic clicks, and then there's a small portion that goes to the ad clicks. And we know that trust in those advertising positions is far lower than it is for organic. And we know that if you can be the providers of the answers that Google sees as the trusted resource, then you're the ones that are winning. So what we're actually doing is we're competing for that featured snippet or the response that Google is giving you to your answers. And quite often, it's not that you're having to overtly ask a question, albeit that will help Google to understand what you're looking for in a response. But often you will see in that featured snippet the information that you need without then having to cause some onward click. So Matt, how are you seeing organizations kind of changing their approach with this in mind?
Yeah, so I mean, I think the short answer is that most organizations haven't caught up to this yet. If you go and ask somebody what their PPC strategy is for Google Ads ad clicks, they have a strategy, and that's only for 4% of Google searches. If you ask them what their featured snippet strategy is, they'll say, I don't know. But that's 51% of all Google searches. And so people are sort of, starting to realize, okay, this is important. Optimizing for the featured snippet is important. And that's when, the more sort of savvy customers that we have are really focusing on answering questions. This is the name of the game. Like you mentioned, Matt, with the rise of Siri and Alexa and this featured snippet that Google does, people expect instant answers to questions. However, when people that manage websites still require their visitors to browse and navigate in order to find the content that they're looking for. But what we're finding more and more is the case is that if people show up on a website and they don't instantly get an answer to the question that they have, they're not sticking around. And so it's about understanding the user intent, understanding the questions that your audience has so that you can go and create the content that provides answers, because that content is naturally more engaging, and it's more likely to keep people on the website. It's more likely to have them engage with the brand, and ultimately increases the likelihood that they're going to convert.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is what it's all about. People's top frustration on websites, this for online buyers, of course, is that they can't get answers to simple questions. I mean, I've seen the statistic actually that you've shared, Matt, about the number of chatbots, or the proportion of chatbots that are and live chat that's arriving on so many websites now. Their inability to provide even basic pricing information on many websites. The most simplest of questions, and of course something that can cause a lot of frustration and cause buyers to just bolt for one of your competitors potentially. And I think this is the thing, whether you're aiming for those featured snippets or not, having this approach to answering questions is a really, really fundamental and basic way to do great marketing, and actually feeds into the sales process in a big way as well. It's a much better experience. It accounts for the wants and needs of the modern buyer, because they're going to research you online before they engage in any sort of conversation. And it gives you a wealth of content that is reusable, that people can digest while you sleep, so that all of those repetitive Q&A that you might be facing from prospects and buyers, all of that kind of goes away. People are self-serving, which is of course what they want. I have to cite a great book by Marcus Sheridan, who's an absolute legend in the inbound marketing world. He wrote a book called They Ask, You Answer. If you're looking for a great way to approach content from this standpoint of answering the most common questions and the ones that matter most to your buyers, that's a great resource. So we're going to talk as well a little bit about answer engine optimization. Now, this is leading into what Matt's about to show us in Frase as a platform, this concept of the answer engine. And so your kind of first step, I guess, Matt, in this approach to finding what people are asking would be to research what's already happening online, what people are tapping into Google and other search engines, what they're typing into Quora and other sites that would provide that kind of Q&A dynamic. But also, as you've said, you can better understand what people are asking and their wants and needs based on your own content and your own website, can't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. People sort of, we've talked about keyword research, and we're seeing sort of the industry head in a new direction recently, which is, as you mentioned, question research. It's understanding what are the questions that your audience has, instead of just stuffing an article full, or a piece of content full of keywords. Really understanding the user intent, the needs of your audience, and then providing a solution in form of the answer to that question. So that sort of research is incredibly important for creating engaging content, but also providing those answers sort of instantly. And we'll get into a little bit some options for doing that as well. But it's just incredibly important to make sure you're optimizing your website to answer questions. So that sort of feeds into this whole answer engine optimization idea.
And this is the kind of process that you've defined for this, which are the kind of outer level at a basic stance is kind of create, answer, research. And so I know that the phrase can help with a lot of this, but essentially anybody can use this, can adopt this approach to creating content that answers common questions, inform writers with better content briefs, by adopting tools that help you get to that first draft and to turn that sooner into the final draft without all of those revisions, better informing, better guiding them. Improve demand in the field, improve the understanding of the keyword landscape. So you've got better insights. It's that kind of garbage in, garbage out approach, and doing away with it, making sure that what you're putting into the process is of the highest quality, so that what comes out is going to be right first time. And then that ongoing research as well. So, by producing your own content, by identifying gaps in your own content arsenal and seeing what people are asking on your own site, you can start to make those live adjustments. And that is the true essence of optimization after all.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to relinquish control now. Matt is going to take the screen and show us Frase in action and how it can help with this process.
Great. So let's see. Can everyone see that?
I certainly can.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So we're talking about answer engine optimization. In fundamentally, this is the inside of Frase. Fundamentally, what Frase is about, as I've mentioned a couple times, is it's understanding the questions that your users are asking, so that you can create high quality and engaging content that provides answers. So Frase is an artificial intelligence platform. We built all this tech. We don't farm this out to anyone, which is why we're so cheap. That's another matter. And so what we do is we have a couple different tools, or sets of tools rather, that help you accomplish this goal. And so I'm going to show you a couple of those things I think will be particularly relevant for you all watching this. Now, Matt was talking about creating and researching high quality documentation. And so one thing that I hear a lot from marketing agencies, but also in-house marketers, is that they don't necessarily know what to write about. And so Frase has this question research tool, which is pretty neat. If we said something like coronavirus, which is a topically relevant or a very relevant topic today, what Frase will do is it will search autocomplete and also different forums like Quora, Reddit, YouTube, whatnot, and it will sort of return all of the questions related to the coronavirus. So this is a really good place to start if you want to understand, okay, what's my audience asking about this topic of interest? Because you don't want to just guess, you want to get into the mind of your audience. This is a great tool for really quickly understanding all of the relevant questions tied to the topic coronavirus. So, everyone talks about keyword research, but no one does question research, which is what this tool is designed to help you do. But this isn't the only type of question research that you can do. You can also do question research for your clients by connecting to their Google Search Console. So in Frase, what this allows you to do, for example, is identify all the question-like queries coming through on your Google Search Console. In other words, these are the questions that people asked in Google that landed them on your website. So for Frase, this is the Frase blog, you can see all these different questions that were asked that brought people into the website. This is giving me essentially a crystal ball into the user intent of the people showing up on my website. But it also shows me sort of the impression, position, clicks, and click-through rate that have resulted. Now, Phrase's blog isn't very extensive yet, so there's not a ton of content here. But if we were to look at the way that Frase, so as you can see, Frase is making a recommendation saying, hey guys, you need to create more content. And so we need to listen to our own tool. But what you can do with this tool is you can actually cluster those questions into different topics. Now, this is really beneficial if you're pitching a new client, because you can connect to their Google Search Console and say, hey guys, you really need to, people are asking about featured snippets. You really need to create content that's capable of answering those questions. Or, hey, you need to answer questions about the answer box, and here are those questions. Now, the beautiful thing about this is Frase also has AI tools that help drastically accelerate the speed with which you can create this content. So for example, let's go into this document page. So Frase has 3 different types of documents. I want to focus on the content brief first. So if we were to stick with this, what is coronavirus theme, what Frase will do in this circumstance is it will search Google for this search query, what is coronavirus. It will return the top 20 results. It will automatically summarize them, and it will analyze them and compile a content brief or content outline in about 10 seconds. So what we see here is our content outline, and I'll get to this in a second, but I want to take a look at what's on the right. So on the right are our sources. So you can see, Johns Hopkins is a source, the World Health Organization, who just lost a bunch of money, is a source, Mayo Clinic is a source, the CDC. So these are the sort of the authorities on this question, which is not surprising. But this is a great tool to understand sort of what the sources are that are creating this content. And Frase is automatically summarizing these articles for you in nice little bullet points, so you can understand the sort of the meat that's in these sources. So then if we take a look on our right, we can see our automatically generated content brief. It's got an overview. It's got a list and summary of sources. It's got highly similar topics, highly frequent topics. It's got highlights for main topics. So, coronavirus infection, patients, pandemic, whatnot. You've got competitor subsections in here. You've got a whole bunch of statistics, which will save you a bunch of time. You've got links for backlinking purposes. So what this tool essentially helps you do is it automates that tedious research process that so many agencies and in-house marketers are spending so much time on. And it really comes down to this. Content writers don't like doing research. Nobody does. They like writing. So what this tool helps you do is it helps you streamline that entire process. So what a lot of our customers do, and about 75% or 80% of our customers are marketing agencies, is they'll generate one of these. And by the way, this is totally editable, so they might say something hello, or they'll say, I don't want that, or I'm going to turn this into a header, whatever. They'll sort of make this their own, this content brief their own, and then they'll export it via a Google Doc or a Microsoft Word document and send it right to their writer. Now, the benefit of this is 2 things. First, the writer has the research that they need in order to create the content. So an article that might have taken 2 weeks to write might just take 1 week or even a few days to write, because they're not doing that research process anymore. The second benefit is that you're immediately aligning with that writer at the outset on the scope and the scope of the content that you want to create. So you don't have to do all these annoying rewrites once the writer has created a piece and send it to you, and you say, oh, this isn't at all what I wanted. Sort of quickly generating one of these and sending it to your writer is a great way to speed up that process. So that's sort of a really important tool.
And Matt, just to jump in there, you're working on an integration as well, aren't you? So that these kind of briefs can be pushed directly into platforms like Verblio, for example, where if you've got a pool of writers that you trusted, you know that they are a good fit for the topic, you'll be able to automate the process effectively of going and assigning that brief to that writer eventually.
Absolutely, yeah. With Verblio on that, but and yeah, there's a bunch of one-click integrations, so to speak. You can even publish this directly to your website. Some people will, if they want to just write the entire article in here, they will, and then they'll just publish the whole thing. But yes, sort of streamlining and automating the process is a really important aspect of creating content, high quality content quickly, and Verblio is helping us do that. So this is, the content brief. This is all about sort of creating content that will help you rank, so to speak. So if I were to look at another article, let's say we wanted to say something like, what is SEO? What we can do for this, let's pull this backlink article here. So what we can do with this is Frase will also allow you to optimize content very quickly. So we can create a new document type, and let's do a content optimization document. We want to rank for this query, right? What is SEO? And we're going to optimize this random backlink article that we just pulled. And now you can also do this before you publish by just pasting the full copy of the text into this box. But we're going to optimize this backlink article really quick. And what Frase will essentially do here is it will use that same artificial intelligence to compare our backlink article to the top 20 performing articles on the internet for the same search query, which is, again, what is SEO? And what Frase will sort of pump out for us is a more or less paint by numbers tool that shows us all of the key topics, not just keywords, but the topics that we need to include in order to rank for this question. So as you can see, here's our article that we just imported. This is the backlink article. What Frase does is it analyzes this total article, it analyzes our competitors' articles, and it basically gives us a nice little grade. So Frase is giving us a 95% topic score, which is excellent, and also not surprising because we pulled it from like the 3rd position in Google, right? But it also gives us this gold bar here, which is the average score of our competitors. We're blowing them out of the water. So if I were a content creator or an SEO expert, I might say, this article is good to go. But what I could do is I could look at this, this is the paint by numbers tool, and I can see all the topics that I'm mentioning in my article compared to the topics that are being mentioned in my competitors' articles. So for example, we're mentioning link building 15 times when our competitors are only mentioning it an average of 3 times. We talked about keyword and topic stuffing might be an opportunity to sort of ease up on this topic. On the other hand, we mentioned bounce rate 0 times, and our competitors are mentioning it an average of 3 times. So there's an opportunity there, and all you'd have to do is say something like bounce rate is very important, and rerun your score sort of grade. Let's see if it moved the needle. It did. So we went from, just with that, adding that topic, we've gone from a 95 to 96% topic score. So really helpful in terms of quickly optimizing your content. For those of you that responded to the survey saying we don't have an SEO strategy, this can really help you out without needing to shop out that sort of effort to a third party. The other thing that this will allow you to do is it lets you see all the headers that your competitors are using. So Frase is sort of breaking down this Moz and Ahrefs and Wikipedia and Life Marketing articles into different headers. So this is a really good tool if you're creating this content brief, or if you want to add to this and say, okay, yep, I really want to add this, I want to mention this. And these are one-click annotations in here. We're going to turn them into headers, and we're well on our way to having 3 new paragraphs with highly relevant headers that our competitors are using. And then again, also we connect to the questions tool. on the other page, let's see if it loads for my internet's a little slow. But this tool will allow you to see all the questions on forums related to your topic of interest, so that you can sort of put them in here and say something like, okay, what are the symptoms of coronavirus? And then you can sort of turn this into a header if you want, and you're on your way in that regard. So that's sort of the main document tools that greatly speed up the document creation and optimization tool or process, I'm sorry. But there are some other things in here that help with the flow as well. And one thing that I want to talk about is the topic ideas section. So Matt was talking about concept maps. And this is really important, especially when you are writing about a topic that you don't know anything about. So for example, let's say I want to write about Australian beaches. Now, I've never been to Australia. I don't know anything about, let's say, the northern beaches of Australia. But what Frase will do is it will access Wikipedia's knowledge graph and connect the main categories related to this topic to the key topics related to those categories. So for example, if I wanted to write about the northern beaches of Australia without knowing anything about them, Frase will give me a full list of the names of the beaches. Plus, if I want to dig even deeper, I might say, you know what, what's the Manly Council? And what's that have to do with the northern beaches of Australia? Frase will reformat itself. It will give me new topics and new concepts, and it will even automatically summarize the Wikipedia article on the Manly Council. Now, the benefit of this is for content planning, right? So let's say you know your client or your boss says, we want to create 5 articles about Australian beaches and the municipalities that manage them. Oh boy, I don't know anything about that. But within 5 or 10 minutes, I can go from knowing nothing about this topic to having a fully generated content brief about the Manly Council. In fact, I could probably do half a dozen fully generated content briefs about the northern beaches of Australia. So you can go from knowing nothing about a topic of interest to having 4 or 5 well-researched automated content briefs about those topics in less than half an hour. Really great asset for content planning and for content strategy. So highly recommend sort of starting here. And then the last thing I want to show you, and then we'll turn it over for questions. Actually, the second to last thing, I lied, is the site audit. So, you know, people always talk about, you know, content strategy and sort of understanding, you know, an entire website. And so what this tool allows you to do is it allows you to see how much an entire website, so I'm using this Style Craze website as an example. This is a health and beauty website with about 7,000 articles. And we can say, how well optimized is this for skincare products? And what Frase will do is it will compare the entire website to your competitors, essentially. And it will give us a full list of the articles that we need to optimize. In other words, high opportunity articles in order to rank for this search term. And you can do this for any search term. If you sell shoes, you can do it for shoes. If you sell, you know, marketing services, you can do it for, you know, inbound marketing services or whatnot. But Frase will spit out this sort of paint by numbers tool again, and it will sort of say, hey guys, a couple things here. Number one, here are the top 50 topics related to skincare products on Google and the percentage of coverage of those topics on your website. So in other words, if we were to look at this, vitamin C is not really mentioned on our website, but you know, skin tone is. So there's opportunities here to identify key topics for research, you know, question research and topic research that you can create content about. It'll also identify the pages that are best prepared to rank for this this search term. So, you know, you can see we're blowing this out of the water. This is the same sort of topic score that we saw in the content optimization document type. We're averaging 15.5. Some of our articles are blowing that out of the water, but some of them are falling behind. And so a lot of the customers that we work with will go to their clients and say, hey guys, you're a skincare company, a skincare product company, but you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the articles that you have created are performing worse than average, than your average competitors. And these are the articles that need to be optimized. I can help you do that. So a great asset when you're sort of creating content that you want to sort of that you want to answer questions, and also a great sort of pitching tool for new clients. Then the last thing I want to show you is the last piece of the answer engine, right? And as Matt mentioned, you know, it's all about researching and creating content that answers questions. But we also have a really nifty tool that allows you to automatically answer questions on your website. So, for example, we've created this essentially a chat bot that can go on any website. But in this example, we've crawled about 1,000 articles about the coronavirus. And so what this tool will do is it lives on a website, and we can say something like, what are the symptoms? It will search all of those, all of that content, and it will instantly spit out an answer to that question. So here's our answer, and also we have sort of a link so that we can drive traffic and click-through rates. But the real benefit of this is, like we've been talking about, if your audience shows up to you or your client's website and doesn't find an answer to the question they're asking, they're going to leave. So the idea with this tool is you instantly provide the answer to the question without needing to staff a live chat team. And the benefits of that are, you know, on some of our customers, we're seeing a 600% increase in conversion when people use this tool. And that's not surprising, right? If you show up to a website and you don't find what you're looking for, you're probably going to leave. And so this tool helps avoid that. But even more importantly, especially for you content creators out there, this tool gives you a perfect insight into the user intent of your audience. You can identify the questions that people are asking and identify, more importantly, the topic gaps on your website. So if, you know, 20% of your website visitors are asking about coronavirus, you don't have any content capable of answering any questions about coronavirus, you've got a problem on your hands. So you use this tool to identify what your audience wants to know about, and then you go back into Frase and you create content quickly that can answer those questions. And as soon as you've created that content, then that content then starts feeding the answer engine, and round we go. And that is the answer engine optimization process that Frase is pioneering right now. So that's sort of the spiel. Happy to answer any questions, Matt, that you might have or the audience might have about this, this tool and the process of optimizing a website to answer questions.
Thanks, Matt. I think what we've done is we've basically shared a secret weapon there. What Frase is doing right now is giving your visitors and your prospects a better experience, and you as marketers the tools that you need to be able to answer their most common, most frequently asked questions. I've got quite a random poll that I'm going to just launch now, and this is really to inform our approach to providing better content to you post webinar, but also to inform our webinars in future, the content we're creating and how we're helping our community of marketers and salespeople. So I'm going to launch this poll, which is going to ask you, if you were to join an online community of like-minded marketing leaders, which platform would you be most likely to adopt and use the most as well? Okay, so the options there are, is it a Facebook group? Would you gravitate towards a LinkedIn group more than that? Would you use Slack? Would it be something else? Or are you just one of those people that don't do online groups at all? Get your answers in there. And then we'll jump into some Q&A. So once you've answered this poll, jump into the Q&A tool on Zoom. Make sure you get your last questions in. We've had a couple already, which we'll take a look at. We'll either put to Matt or I'll address it as well. Let's give you 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Thanks for those responses. Looks like LinkedIn groups are the marginal winner on that one, by the way. Okay. Before we get to Q&A, just want to bring up our next event. Next Wednesday, same time, 3 till 4 p.m. in the UK, 10 a.m. Eastern time. We're going to be covering video prospecting and selling masterclass with our partners at Vidyard. So we're having Yaniv Siegel joining us to show us how salespeople, and let's face it, everyone has been made, whether you were a field salesperson, whether you're out pressing the flesh, meeting people, presenting to them, everybody now is doing inside sales and they're having to. So this is about using video to give you the edge when it comes to that personal connection, getting better results from sales while we find ourselves all working from the kitchen table. Please share this with salespeople within your teams. I know that you as marketers are best friends with your salespeople. So send them to bit.ly/vidsell2020 and you can get registered for next week's webinar. Okay, and it's time for questions. So let me jump into the Q&A section, and I saw that we also had something in the chat as well. So another Matt H, in fact, Matt Hall, who's on the webinar, asked, when you're finding those questions that people are asking, would you go about creating, or how would you identify questions that have already been answered by your competitors? I think the concern there is that you just be creating more content that answers the same question. So is it a case of finding opportunities to create better content than is already ranking in those positions? So it's not a case of, if it's already been answered, don't create content around it.
Right. Yeah, that's a great question. I think that creating content that uniquely meets the needs of your audience is more important than creating 100% unique content. It's really hard to create 100% unique content these days. The internet is massive, and most ideas have been talked about. But with Frase, what's more important is understanding the questions that your specific audience has. It's not necessarily as crucial to make sure that you're only answering the questions that have never been answered before. You just want to make sure that when people show up on your website, they find the answers to the questions that they're looking for. And so the question research tab tool is a great tool to sort of get started. It's very much sort of a surface level tool, what's sort of out there and what's being asked on the internet. But the Google Search Console integration is so valuable, because what that does is it gives you unique insight into the questions that your specific audience has. So at that point, it's less about answering them and being unique, and it's more about answering them because your audience wants them to be answered. So I would say that creating high quality content and creating unique content are not always completely exclusive of one another. Sometimes you can create high quality content around answering a question that may have already been answered, not necessarily maybe on your competitors' websites, but on somewhere else on the internet.
Sure. Yeah, ideally you want to be the one that's answering the questions and giving the best response as well. I don't know whether, Matt, you can see the Q&A panel there. I'm having a bit of a technical issue with it myself. It's saying there's a question in there, but I can't quite see it.
I can see. Can you explain what this graph shows? Oh boy, I'm not sure which graph she's referring to. That will be.
We've lost the context of that.
That will be a tough question to answer. Sorry, we didn't jump on that right away. Oh, the search bias graph. Okay, Matt, can we rewind a little bit and
yeah, let's jump back in the presentation. Find the bias.
Rewind or refresh my memory.
There we go. Reporting bias in third-party keyword research tools.
Oh, okay, got it. Yeah. So what this basically is just showing is that stuffing an article full of keywords does not necessarily improve the quality of your content.
Yeah, and also I think another aspect of this is the disparity between different keyword tools, that they're going to give you different statistics, going to give you different recommendations. And actually, there's a huge mismatch between the keywords that are going to be recommended by one tool versus another. But I think more important than that, and that sits as a layer above all of this, is that the keyword research tools will show you the odd question that is being asked if it's been typed in as a keyword, as a search. But often you're going to miss out, thanks to those other sources like the predictive search on Google, like Quora, like those other third-party forum sites that are monitored by the likes of Frase. You're going to miss out on so many opportunities to understand at a deeper level what your prospects are asking, what content needs to be created as a result. Do we have another question there, Matt?
No, just the follow-up on this chart.
Fantastic. Okay. So
Great.
that brings us to the end, about on time. Thank you so much for joining us today. And Matt, thank you. I have to say thank you, in fact, for the introduction to Matt. Big thanks to Clodagh Higgins at the Grow It Group and to Alex at partnerprograms.io. I know we've got agencies joining us today. If you are an agency that's looking for more partner programs, like the partnership that we've grown between Influence Agents and Frase, then reach out to partnerprograms.io as well. And listen, thanks again for sharing with us today, Matt. All the very best at Frase, and for all of the rest of you, join us next week for our Selling with Video Masterclass, and we'll see you again soon. Take care.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good one.